Today, we're really tearing apart the whole Bonnie and Clyde thing.
Yeah, it's a big one.
We're diving into the source material from that, public enemy era, roughly 1931 to 34. And the mission is sort of, how did these two, well, frankly, amateur criminals end up changing American law enforcement so drastically?
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? Because, when you look at the actual sources, their crimes were often messy, not very profitable, yet they became these huge cultural figures that, in a way, handed the federal government the justification it needed to centralize policing power.
Right. So how did these, relatively unsuccessful outlaws force such a massive shift?
Yeah.
That's what we need to unpack for you.
Exactly.
Because the popular image, it's all high-stakes bank robberies, right? But the sources, they actually show the Barrow Gang was kind of looked down on by other criminals.
Yeah, desperados, as the source material puts it. They saw them as unprofessional.
Totally. They mostly hit small stores, rural gas stations, low-hanging fruit, really. They were pretty small time.
And the returns reflected that. I mean, take the Stuart, Iowa bank robbery in 34. They walked away with, what, maybe $1,500?
$1,500, that's it.
That's it. Compare that to, say, the Barker-Karpus gang around the same time. They were pulling in over $1 million from strategic hits. Bonnie and Clyde's whole operation was, well, it was low financial gain mixed with just horrific violence. Clyde was linked to at least 12 murders himself.
Wow.
At least 9 police officers, 3 civilians confirmed killed by the gang. Their notoriety, their fame, it was built on being lethal, not rich.
Okay, so they're small-time, violent, but somehow they keep evading capture. How? Was it really just crossing state lines, that state line rule?
That was absolutely critical. You have to understand, the structure back then was completely fragmented. Most of their crimes, robbery, stealing cars, they weren't federal offenses.
Oh, okay.
So local or state police, their jurisdiction literally stopped at the state border. They couldn't pursue them.
So the gang could just hop across a line and be, well, relatively safe.
Effectively, yes. It created this legal loophole, a kind of safety net for them. Their small-time crimes exposed this massive weakness in the system.
Right, which leads us to the consequences.
Exactly, because this kept happening. They couldn't catch them. Add in other high-profile failures, like the Kansas City Massacre in 33. Well, the political pressure just became immense. Something had to change.
And that's where the federal government steps in.
Precisely. This pressure led directly to the 1934 Federal Crime Bill package, a huge deal. And the key part for this story is the Federal Bank Robbery Act. That act dramatically expanded federal jurisdiction. Suddenly, robbing any bank insured by the FDIC was a federal crime, and it massively boosted the power and reach of the FBI under J. Edgar Hoover.
So it's a huge shift. Centralized professional policing really taking shape.
A quantum leap, really.
And here's a really interesting angle the sources bring up. The political usefulness of focusing on these public enemies.
Oh, absolutely.
The government gets to look strong, building up this federal power by chasing famous outlaws. Yeah. And it lets them sidestep maybe more difficult systemic problems.
Like what?
Well, like widespread racial violence, lynchings, especially in the South, things that were deeply embedded societal failures. Chasing Bonnie and Clyde was, a more straightforward narrative.
A visible enemy. It's much easier to rally support against a couple with guns than to confront deep-seated inequality. It's politically very useful for building that federal authority.
Yeah, definitely. Meanwhile, the public myth just explodes, right? Totally separate from the grim reality. Bonnie Parker's poetry, like The Trail's End.
That poem really framed it.
It paints this picture of tragic romance, star-crossed lovers against the world. Completely overshadows the, desperation and the killing.
And you see this cultural value, this myth-making, reflected directly in, believe it or not, auction prices.
How so?
Well, okay, take an actual artifact from one of their minor crimes. A deposit book from that Stuart bank, the one they got $1,500 from. Maybe fetches $45 today. Pocket change, really.
Okay.
But items tied to the legend. Bonnie's poem sold for $36,000. Clyde Barrow's watch, $112,500.
Wow, that's incredible. The story's literally worth more than the evidence.
Exponentially more. The myth pays.
And of course, the 1967 movie cemented that romantic image. But it also had real consequences, didn't it? The Frank Hamer lawsuit.
That's right. Hamer, the Texas Ranger who led the final ambush, was portrayed as sort of vengeful and bumbling. His family sued for defamation and won. It shows there's a real cost when you revise history like that, when you turn complex reality into simple fiction.
So wrapping this up.
Yeah.
What does Bonnie and Clyde even mean today? It's shorthand for, like, inseparable partners, maybe rebels, adventurers.
Yeah, partners in crime, definitely. But the adventure part, it completely glosses over the reality, the sheer brutality, and frankly, the ineptitude of a lot of it.
So the myth won, basically.
It seems so. And here's a final thought, connecting this back to immediate measurable consequences. Their deaths actually triggered a change in the life insurance industry.
Really? How?
Companies like American National Insurance had to quickly revise their policies. They added clauses to specifically exclude payouts if the insured person died while committing a criminal act. Clyde had a policy, you see.
No kidding.
So they died violently because of their crimes, and the insurance companies reacted almost instantly. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? In what other parts of our lives do we maybe accept the romantic story, the easy narrative, over the harder factual or even financial consequences? Where else does the myth override the math?